What's up, you guys, and welcome back on another episode of the Smart Talk. We're talking about real struggles, real stories, and entrepreneurs that came from the ground up. Today, I have a very special guest here for today. I got Kristina, aka Stunna, in the building.
Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing okay?
Doing good.
Appreciate you coming on the
Yeah,
show.
thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So I know a lot of people know you in New Mexico and Albuquerque. So just want everyone to get to know you a little bit more about you and your story and how you came up and stuff. So tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I started modeling when I was about 11 years old. My mom put me into modeling in a school called John Robert Powers, and that's where I had started. And then as I got older, I kind of just took off a little bit with it. So recently, I think the first thing I had started doing was modeling for the Duke City Gladiators. I was one of their promo girls, and after that, I started doing fashion shows, stuff like that. A lot of promo modeling stuff for actually locally owned clothing businesses and stuff like that, or even just businesses in general, locally owned. So I started working with a lot of actually like local entrepreneurs here in Albuquerque. And from there, I started working with, the last thing I did was with Thunderbird out in Gallup. And so when I was out in Gallup, I was a 2022 Thunderbird model. So I had gotten up on billboards, I was in calendars, stuff like that. I used to do all the lowrider shows, just a lot of local stuff, Harley Davidson fashion shows. So I've done a lot. I do have a long portfolio when it comes to modeling. I tried doing a tattoo apprenticeship, but it's just not going the way I was hoping it would. So I do love to draw, I love to paint, I'm very artistic. So I tried doing a tattoo apprenticeship, didn't go the way I planned. So that's what led me to going into cosmetology, because it just wasn't going the way I would hope it would. So I went to cosmetology school. Took me about 2 years to graduate because I was part-time, working full-time job. I do have a 6-year-old son, so I was full-time mom, full-time employee, and doing school part-time. So once I graduated, I was booth renting right away. I started, like running my business right off the bat. And it was kind of scary, because when I graduated school, I was kind of scared that I wasn't going to have no clientele. I'd have to really like work my way up. But I felt like I'm very good at promoting myself already. So when I graduated, I already was building my clientele in school. So I had a pretty decent clientele when I was in school. Like I probably had, every single day. We were expected to take in walk-ins at the school, but I never could take walk-ins because I always had like 2 to 3 appointments a night. And so I was like working back to back. I was working multiple clients at a time. So yeah, I got into doing cosmetology. I'm licensed a year now, so I'm doing that. I also started a skin and wellness business, so I sell skin and wellness products. So I'm trying to, get the motion of my business going. I just recently quit my full-time job of 5 years to work full-time for my own business. So that's what I'm trying to do now.
Where were you working full time?
I started as a admin assistant, and then I worked my way up to database manager. I got a promotion there. So I was there about 5 years. But after a while, I just really realized like I could be working a lot harder for myself. I just kind of felt very unappreciated and just hovered over all the time. Just felt like I didn't have the respect as an employee. So it kind of pushed me to be like, you know what, if I'm going to work this hard for anybody, it's going to be for my own business and for myself, someone who's going to appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And so I left that job, and I have not regretted it since. Like I was scared at first. It was a scary leap of faith, but I have been super busy. I've been super booked, and just the word of mouth is like, it's so big as a business person. It's like that word of mouth, like you can promote yourself so much on social media. You can hand out all these business cards, but where it really comes from is word of mouth and people telling their experience, like, hey, this person did really good on my hair, so it's like that's where the majority of my clientele is coming right now. Like, oh, I was referred to you by this person or this person.
And how does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel really good because I get so many compliments. You know, Everybody has their bad days. Everyone has their bad days where they have, their mess ups and all this stuff. But it's like the days that you get those compliments on your work and how well you do and how well you treat people. You make people feel welcomed. And it's like when you hear the good feedback like that about yourself, it just like overpowers the bad days. You know what I mean? Like bad days can be super bad, but it's like then you have the next client that comes in like, wow, oh my God, I love my hair. And, it's like you just have to remember everybody makes mistakes. Everybody, messes up, but you can't let like the bad outweigh the good.
Yeah,
And that's what
crazy.
I've had to learn,
Yeah, and that's crazy that you talk about that because you had that thing happen to you just earlier, like in the last hour.
Yeah, right. So I try not to let it get to me, even though I was having a rough time, like on the way here. I just, like, I kept having to tell myself, you're still a badass at hair. Like, you still do good. You still do good. Like, don't worry about it. So I just try to keep myself, because you don't always have that support of people like uplifting you, you know what I mean? So it's like on those days you have to just like get yourself out of that mindset. Like you can't let it bring you down, you know. And I used to beat myself up bad. Like,
so how did you change that from like where you're not beating yourself up? Are you doing like more affirmations to yourself?
yeah,
Or?
I am actually. So I've been in church. I just recently got baptized about 2 years ago at Legacy, over there on Corzine Central. I've been going there since I was 13 years old, but I never like took my walk with God very seriously, and like I knew about God. I was raised in a Catholic church, and then I moved to Christianity. But up until I went through some recent stuff, like in my life, it kind of like my mom, she was the person that was always like, get to church, get to church.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Mom, like, every time my mom would tell me to get to church, it would just bother me because I'm like, church is not going to help what I'm going through. It's really not,
Yeah.
And back in 2023, I got water baptized, and, I started taking my walk a lot more seriously. Eventually, I stopped drinking. I stopped going out. I stopped, partying, all of that stuff. Excuse me. And I kept, going to church and going to church. And, we all have our falls and, we stumble along the way. But I feel like this year I'm actually doing so good with my walk with God. Like, it's been crazy the amount of change that has only happened in about a year,
So you see like a huge correlation between religion and your business, or how you prospering?
Oh yeah, that's my ministry. Hair is definitely my ministry. I love when I get clients that are willing and open to talk about God, or like, even if I don't tell them about my stories, I love to hear about theirs and how much God has changed their life. You know what I mean? So those are always the days that make what I do worth what I do, because and if for me, people always ask me, like, what's the hardest thing about your job, or what's the funnest part about your job? To me, the funnest part about my job is literally like giving somebody a listening ear, because it's like as soon as people sit in my chair, I don't know if it's like my energy, I don't know if it's just the vibe of the shop, but they just start dumping on me about everything, So but yeah, I mean, like, or they'll even start to ask me about my personal experiences. So that to me is like the best part of my job. Like I said, it's like my ministry. I love to, even if I don't tell them about God, it's still nice to like
Express
be
yourself.
there for people. Yeah. So I love to. I just love to listen to people, because sometimes that's really all we need, is somebody to listen. We don't need opinions, we don't need people to put their input. Like, just having somebody listen to you is like, okay, now that's off my shoulders.
Yeah.
So let's start peeling the onion real quick. So usually when people go back to God or start taking their religion or culture a little bit more seriously, it's typically because they went through some hardship, or they went through some bad event. What happened to you?
Yeah, you're lucky if you find God on good terms, because for me it was a very, very dark time. So like, just timeline, I've been through abusive relationships. My mom and my dad divorced when I was like 17. And then after they divorced, my dad got into a motorcycle accident and I almost lost him. So that was the dad that raised me. But then my biological dad, he's been in and out of prison my whole life. And he went to prison for 10 years after my parents divorced. And so that was hard, because it was almost like I lost all three of my parents. Not that I lost them, but it was just so divided. And I felt on my own. And then after that, I lost my brother to car accident, and then 4 days after, my grandma died. And then just down the line, it was like my grandpa died of cancer, my uncle died of cancer, and it was just back to back deaths in the family within like a 3 year time span. Like it was just boom, boom, boom after the other. And after those deaths were really hard on me, for one. Then I got sick with my kidneys when I was going to UNM. I was in UNM for criminology. I wanted to be a crime scene investigator originally after I graduated high school, but I got sick. I've always dealt with real bad like kidney problems, so I basically I'm looked at as like college dropout, you know. But I didn't let that stop me. Like I still continued to further my education, you know, and when I was in cosmetology school, I told myself like I'm not going to give up on this like I have to finish this cuz I didn't finish college. I didn't finish my tattoo apprenticeship, you know. So I had to finish my cosmetology. Like third time's the charm, you know. And so after that it was just like I went through an abusive relationship. With high school boyfriend, but then after high school I, you know, had gotten pregnant, and that relationship didn't go so well. And it was like I think we were on and off for about 7-8 years, for a long time, back and forth. It was just always confusion and a lot of, you know, just a mess. And so when I had my son, that's when, you know, me and my son's dad, we separated. And we faced like legal trouble, and that's kind of what separated us. So as a child, like I've always dealt with really bad anger problems, just because I went through a lot, you know, at a very young age. And so when I was dealing with all of that anger, it kind of took for me to go through that legal trouble for me to like snap and learn to control my emotions and my temper, you know. And so I mean, it was unfortunate. It happened, you know. I didn't plan for things to go that way, but I guess I just kind of got to a point where I was tired of the disrespect, you know. And I went to jail, and charges were pressed on me. And I was on probation for about a year. I was going through therapy for about a year. And blessing in disguise, you know, that whole situation was literally blessing in disguise for me, because when I was going through therapy, I like so happened to meet a very, very good therapist. And I'm actually still with her, going on I think 4 years now, 4 or 5 years. But when I was in therapy with her, I kept telling her, I'm like, something's missing, you know. I'm like, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm getting a lot out of this therapy, but there's something missing. And she was like, are you spiritual? Like, do you believe in God? Like, do you worship anything? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I grew up Catholic, but I'm Christian now, you know. I said I was always in church. And she's like, why don't you just try going to church? And so it was because of her saying that, like, and mind you, my therapist is not even a believer in God. Like, she just so happened to tell me, like, we all have physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And if you're not feeding all four of those at the same time, something is going to feel like it's missing, you know. So when she said, she's like, it might be spiritual, so go to church and just, you know, see what it does. And ever since then, you know, back in 2023, I got water baptized, and it's just taken off from there. Like, I've just gotten really close to God. I've really turned my life around, you know.
It's great to hear.
So, yeah.
It's really great to hear.
You being in the jail cell, you think that's like the lowest point you had in your life so
Oh,
far?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I tell everybody, I'm like, I've never even gotten a freaking speeding ticket. Like, I do not belong here, you know. And so
Oh, trust me, I know.
yeah, so that was probably rock bottom. Like, I thought when I was pregnant and alone, that was rock bottom. But, oh my God, like, sitting in that jail cell, like, it's just so crazy, because I could not control my emotions. I was horrible at controlling my emotions. And I just remember sitting in that jail cell. And when I was younger, my grandpa always used to tell me, because I grew up very close to both my boy cousins, and he'd be like, keep your hands to yourself. But they were always so rough with me. So I was like, well, why can they bully me and push me around, but I can't defend myself, you know? And so, you know, they would push me, bully me, you know. And as soon as my grandpa caught me laying a hand on them, he'd yell at me like, keep your hands to yourself. Like, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard for you to keep your hands to yourself? And so I just remember sitting in the jail cell, and I was like crying, because I heard my grandpa, why is it so hard to keep your hands to yourself?
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, that was probably
Where do you think your anger comes from?
just the stuff that I've been through, you know. It's really stemmed. My therapist told me something that really stuck with me, and she said, going through therapy is basically like pulling a tree from its roots, you
Yeah.
know? Like you can chop the branches, you can pull the leaves, but they're gonna grow back.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, but until you pull that root, like it's gonna stay coming back. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that's a really good saying.
It
Right.
is.
So like when you look at it like that, it's like you have to pull it by the root. You and she told me you have to identify where the root stems from. Like you have to identify where all of this comes from, you know. And she kind of broke it down like there's the branch of bitterness, there's the branch of betrayal, there's the branch of disappointment, you know, and she's like every time you say one of those words, if I tell you the word betrayal, what comes to your mind? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? And then boom, that's one of the freaking roots. You know what I mean? When I say disappointment, what's the first scenario that comes to your mind? Boom, that's the second stem. You know, so she like broke it down in like the perspective of a tree basically. And ever since then, you know, she's really helped me. So like I said, it was unfortunate the reasons I met her,
Mm-hmm.
but it was blessing in disguise for me because she really helped me through a lot.
Shit, I think we got the wrong person on the podcast. Where's your counselor at?
No, she's really good. I really enjoy working with her. You know, I've been with her for 5 years now. So, but you know, I've because of her, and not just because of her, but thanks to her for leading me back to God. Like, I give her all the flowers. I give her a lot of credit, but I have
Mm-hmm.
to give glory to God because seriously, like if it wasn't for me finding my relationship with God, like I would still be the person I was literally last year. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just within the year time span, I've really gone through a lot, but I guess I've learned to manage it better. I've learned to control it. I just remember like one night I was on the phone with my mom and I'm like upset, and every time I would call my family, you know, like my family's always like, you're such a freaking dark cloud, like you're always mad, like you're always in a bad mood, everybody always pisses you off, and you just get tired of hearing that about yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just remember like when I was in church, you know, I just the pastor had said something about when you are picking the like stuff about other people, look at yourself and ask yourself if you do those same things, because 99% of the time we treat other people like that too, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like we're not very perfect, you know. And so when he said that, I was like, is it me? Like, am I the freaking problem? You know? And because I would always ask, why do I attract such freaking horrible friends? Why do I attract such piece of crap freaking guys? You know? And when he said that, like, basically, like, take a look in the mirror, you know, and ask yourself, am I the person that I want to attract as a friend, as a significant other, you know? And when I looked at myself like that, it was like, I don't want to keep attracting the person that I see when I look in the mirror. You know, I wasn't happy with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, I just noticed a lot of negative things about myself, and that's what got me to really change, right? And so there's this song that has a big part of me, like, changing basically. So it's called Different by, I don't remember who it's by. I can't remember the artist, but basically he says, I want to be different, I want to be changed. Um, you know, and he basically talks about like take the anger, take the bitterness, take all of this. I want to be happy, I want to be loving. And so that song really like changed my life, because I remember I was in the car just crying listening to it. And I called my mom and I was like, "Mom, I just want to like be different. I don't want to be this angry freaking person no more. I don't want to hold all this unforgiveness in my heart, you know?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I just remember like when I hung up the phone, I just dropped to my knees crying and praying to God, like, please help me out of this. You know, I don't want to be this person no more.
Yeah.
Because growing up, you know, I would always get compliments. My mom would always get compliments everywhere we went. Like, she is such a sweetheart. She's so generous. She's so kind, you know, and she's so funny. Like, I was like a bright personality when I was younger, you know, and I think because of all the stuff that I went through, it kind of like literally dimmed my light.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that in myself when people kept telling me I was a dark cloud, and I was like, okay, that's it right there, you know, when I don't have my light anymore.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's been hard, you know, like it's been hard trying to be that good-hearted person in such a like hateful world, you know what I mean? Like people,
Mm-hmm.
there's days I'm just like, I have to really tell myself like just breathe, just so like my family, you know, the for me right now where I'm at with controlling my emotions is walking away, because if I stay there, like I can't just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna eventually poke the bear so much to where the bear reacts.
Yeah.
And so my family gets upset with me because like that's my form of like that's my coping mechanism, is just to walk away, because if I keep myself in this situation, I'm gonna explode.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but right now, I mean, that's a start to where I need to be, because old me would have lashed out.
Yeah. But how do you deal with it internally? Even though you're walking away, it still affects you to a certain point, right?
I have to just tell myself to breathe, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Like it's easier said than done, but it's like I really just have to keep myself composed. I have to keep
Yeah.
myself together, cuz my dad, he always tells me like don't lose control, or don't lose control, cuz when you lose control, like you don't have control of anything,
Yeah.
and or stay calm, cuz when you overreact, like you're gonna lose control.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you don't want to lose control, you want to keep control. And so every time like I get upset, I just have my dad in the back of my mind, like, keep control, you
Yeah.
know. So it's been a learning process for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been easy trying to get over like anger problems. And I don't think it is for anybody, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but I just got tired of being an angry person. I got tired of always being called negative Nancy, and no one wanted to invite me and include me because I was always so negative, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't want to be that person. I want to be the first person people think of to invite, because I'm the life of the party.
Do you
Mm-hmm.
think since you were a child, were you taught like how to have emotional intelligence or how to
Mm-mm.
deal with that? No.
No. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where me and my therapist kind of discovered that, was
Mm-hmm.
because back from childhood, she asked me like, how would like your parents and stuff handle their anger when they would
Right.
fight and this and that. And yeah, no, I grew up in a family where it was, you got mad at somebody, you punch them in the freaking face and you beat the shit out of them. Like you
Yeah.
lose control, literally, like you lose all self-control. And that was the hardest thing for me to learn, was self-control. But it took for me to go through all of that legal stuff to find my self-control. And
Mm-hmm.
my favorite scripture, so what really helps me with that was, my favorite scripture is, God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, love, and a sound mind, or self-control.
Mm-hmm.
And so that scripture has just always stuck to my heart. So like he did give me a spirit of self-control,
Yeah.
because I used to walk around saying, like, I can't control myself, I can't control my anger, I can't control my emotions. And my mom would always tell me, stop word cursing yourself, like stop saying stuff like that over yourself, because yes, you can. And she like instilled that scripture in me.
Mm-hmm.
He gave you a spirit of power, love, and self-control. And
Right.
so that has really like stuck to me for sure. So
So
but
you turning back to God, do you feel like you need to marry someone or be with someone that is close in your religion too, or that's
yes,
practicing?
yeah, and for me, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's, you know Catholic, Christian. I really don't care, but it's just I don't have like a religion preference, cuz like to me, I don't even like to say that I'm a Christian. I like to just say I'm a believer in God, like I have my faith in God. Just because I feel like religion kind of puts a lot of stereotyping to people, you know what I mean? And to me, I just feel like we're all human beings. We all struggle with stuff. We all have imperfections, and for me, I felt like the religion kind of puts that stereotype on you, whether you're a Christian or, whatever it is. Um, but for me, I don't really mind if you are not a Christian or not a Catholic. Yes, I do want my significant other to be a believer in God, but my biggest thing is, what does your heart look like? How do you treat people? How,
Mm-hmm.
and for as much work as I've put into myself, like I've always told myself, I will not go and date somebody that I don't see working on themselves. Like if I see somebody walking around, using their childhood as an excuse to treat people like crap, or the things that they've been through and them taking out their problems on other people. I mean, we all do it, you know what I mean? But it's like, if you're not willing to put the work into yourself, like I'm not sure you'd be willing to put that work into us. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my biggest thing, is like, as long as you're putting in the work to yourself, for sure. That's my biggest that's my biggest like pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did,
For
are
sure.
you really happy and proud of how far you came to this point in your life?
Oh yeah, like even talking about it, I'm cheesing so much because I really,
Yeah.
I really am. But like even just talking about it, I've shared my testimony with people so many times, and it still like gets stuck in my throat. Like it still makes me want to cry,
Mm-hmm.
just because like not everybody feels what I feel, but I know what I've been through and I know what I've gone through. I know the work that I've like put into myself, so it's like you just have to be proud of yourself. You know what I mean? I seen this Instagram reel the other day, and it made me kind of look at life a little different because he says when you die, like everyone's gonna grieve, they're gonna cry for the split moment, but time's gonna go on. They're gonna pretty much forget about you. They're gonna still continue to live their life without you, and when they're going through things, like they're not gonna like think about you and what you would think about it. You know what I mean? So like you live your life for you because you're the one that feels what you feel and goes through what you go through. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and um, I feel like I'm kind of in a place where I don't really care to ask people's like opinions and stuff anymore. Like I feel very confident in myself. Like before I used to ask people like should I do this? Like should I do that? And I feel like now I'm at a place where like I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do what I have a passion for, what I love doing,
Mm-hmm.
cuz it doesn't matter what you think of it. What do I think of it?
Right.
So that's my thing for like just life in general. Just do what makes you happy. Like I know people say that so many times and it's always so corny when people say do what makes you happy, but
Mm-hmm.
seriously, like it's if you really take it to heart, it's you have to do what you enjoy doing. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
got a lot of backlash like when I started um posting about God a lot. People would kind of like, oh, all of a sudden you're into God, and
Mm-hmm.
oh, remember when you did this? And I got that so much. Like when I started, like posting more about God, people would really try to like bring up my past a lot.
Yeah.
And it would hurt me. Like it would make me like feel guilty. It would make me feel like ashamed. But I think like now, like even with you guys asking me to kind of share the testimony, it was like, no, I think I'm ready, like because you know what, like I went through what I went through. It's unfortunate, it happens, but at some point in your life, like you kind of have to like let it go. You can't stay hanging on to the stuff that you've been through and like let people use it as a rock, you know what I mean, to throw at
Absolutely.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know
yeah.
you've been through a lot of stuff, well, and you always talk about working on yourself and stuff like that.
Mhm.
What's the next move for you? Like, what goals or ambitions you have?
Um, right now I'm kind of at a weird place. I'm actually at a weird place where I kind of feel stagnant. And I don't like that because it was like so much motion, but sometimes like the only thing that I can hear is just God telling me to be still.
Mm-hmm.
Just be still. And it's like me, I'm such a like high anxiety person. I get anxiety like when I don't feel things going, when I feel stuck, and it gives me like stress. And I don't know. I don't know what to expect right now. Like I'm just kind of going through a weird like peaceful phase, cuz I
Mm-hmm.
recently just quit my job, and so that was kind of a huge leap of faith. Like I didn't know what to expect. But in the moment, it's kind of like I'm just getting my business going. I'm still continuing to, keep myself in church, keep myself in the Word of God, and I'm just being still. I'm just waiting for something. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but in the Bible it says you don't understand what I'm doing now, but later you will. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just keeping my faith, and in those moments of like stillness, it's hard to keep your faith cuz it's like you just try so hard. And I feel like I'm not doing if I feel like I'm not doing something with my life, it doesn't make me feel good. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
so it shakes my faith a little bit, but I can't be shakeable. I can't let it bring me down, or turn me back around. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, me and Evis don't know you on a personal level, but me and him are definitely hustlers, and we've definitely
Mhm.
been through some shit in our lives, so we can definitely respect someone that comes on the show and gives
Mm-hmm.
their story and how
Right.
they came up and their trials and tribulations. 'Cause it is hard, because a lot of
It
people
is.
will use that as excuse,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really condemn you for doing all that. I always
Right.
wish you the best, wish your family the best.
Thank you.
It's heart touching, because I was kind of when before I started doing this, I was, kind of in my own little head that like, no, I'm the only person that's been through some shit. But like,
Right.
and it's crazy because I'm sitting across from somebody and everyone has their own story.
Mhm.
So I'm really proud of you. You know,
Thank you.
it's super stoked to see that someone change your life around, and hopefully you're gonna give your kid the best life.
Oh yeah.
You
for
know,
sure.
so before we in today's podcast, you guys, I want to give a huge shout out to our two main sponsors. We got Hookah Kings, the top rated hookah lounge in New Mexico, and Marino Media, quality content for your business and image. And I'll see you guys next time on the Smart Talk.
Nice.